My name is Alex Dang. I am a full-time poet, and this is my life story. What it means to be Asian American to me is complicated and difficult, and I think that's okay, and I think that's great. And I feel like we're reaching a point where there's a lot of discussion and a lot of exploration with Asian American identities that are really beneficial. And the weird thing about being Asian American in America is that regardless of how long you've been here, you're always treated as an outsider or an other. And I think that's a really weird dissecting thing, but also unites us in a very weird way of like, depending on how much legacy or how many roots you have in America. And above all, I think to be Asian American is to be American. It is to come from nothing, to pull yourself up from the bootstraps, to make something for the rest of your family, for the rest of your generations. You know, I've always loved language, and I've always loved words. I remember once my dad dropped me off at school. It was like maybe 3rd or 4th grade, and he dropped me off at school, and then he was kind of curious about like what I did in the mornings. So after he dropped me off, he like parked the car, then he like kind of turned around to see where I went, and what I decided to do was to go to the library and read. And I really appreciate that he remembered that moment, because I've always loved language and I've always loved words. When I was in middle school, I actually I learned how to play the trombone, so I started really getting into music, and I wanted to be a hip-hop artist. So I pursued being a rapper for a really long time. Then in high school, I got into theater, into speech and debate. I was still doing hip-hop, and I kind of fell, luckily, into the poetry slam. It was between my junior and senior year during the summer, I wanted to go to an open mic to practice one of my songs a cappella, and it happened to be the Portland Poetry Slam, and I just fell in love with this art form where it was the same kind of writing that you see in theater, in hip-hop. It was poetic, it was heightened, it was elevated, it was dense, it was still really expressive and emotive to the audience because of the performance aspect. Like, you never left the stage. You always leave the stage feeling like you just like were at a concert or something.
That every time you confuse me with some other nationality that I might share similar features to, strips away my individuality, and I still feel the shame of being Asian. The heat and pious dedication of June 11th, 1963, the envy of blonde hair and blue eyes, and I still remember thinking where all the boys who looked like me on TV were. The broken words my mother and father stage diving off my tongue, the anger I felt when those kids thought I would get them sick, and I still feel the ash of the incense burn my hands as I prayed for my family, and I still remember thinking my skin was what I was worth, and I still feel the ironwork of my bones grow stronger with every train of thought that passes by, and I still feel pride, and I still feel heritage, and I still feel Chinese, and I still feel Vietnamese, and I still feel American, and I still feel.
What I learned, which actually when I was writing What Kind of Asian Are You, what I learned is that all those instances from What Kind of Asian Are You are personal experiences. I did zero research, I just kind of looked back on my life. And before I wrote that poem, I had never touched race, and it was about 2 years before I really wrote about race, which was What Kind of Asian Are You? And I always felt like I wasn't smart enough to write about it, or other people had written better race poems, or that it was too difficult to write about, too nuanced, too complicated to explain. And I realized when I was like, all right, I really want to try this out now, because I was like at a point where like I was growing and I wanted to challenge myself writing. So I was like, let's write about the thing that scares me the most. And I was like, how can I do this? And I just started writing just from my perspective. And I always thought, like, I would have to, like, research my arguments. I would have to, like, really make sure I had the succinct language. But then I realized, oh, they can't fact check me if it's about my life. Like, you can't deny my identity and existence if I'm writing about specifically from my experience. And then after I learned that, it became even scarier to perform, because it was all 100% me. But I learned those are the poems that are the best. Like, the work that scares you the most, I feel like, are often the best kind of things.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here, and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.